Jim Finch's Auditing Insanity newscast was filmed before a live studio audience of cats. Good morning and welcome everyone to the first broadcast of the newly renamed Auditing Insanity Daily Newscast. I'm Jim Finch and I'll be your host tonight for stories on Alan Jackson totally not throwing up smoke clouds to cover his alleged affair with Karen Reed, Michael Mee saying his name is Reek, and having to service a client who says he's a really bad lawyer. Regan Benson scoring big time from a massive payout in Denver. And, of course, an update on the insane conspiracy that keeps me tied to the GoFundMe report. It's a beautiful day here in north central Pennsylvania. We've got some clouds rolling in, but otherwise blue skies, and the amazing wonder of nature is on full display as I watch from my hermetically sealed viewpoint inside the house as I'm allergic to the glory and wonder that is life. But remember, as Alice pointed out, it's life, or what you get. So go and have a ball. We've rolled out a number of major changes in the past 12 hours, but instead of whining about it here, let's pull up our next amazing segment and have at it in our daily hijacking of the GoFundMe conspiracy column. Let's get into this mess and we'll see you after the news. GoFundMe, DeCastro wins again. Despite the best efforts by the conspiracy to keep me writing this article, Jose Chile DeCastro's Legal Aid Fund, Donation Fund, Help People Fund took the GoFundMe win for Monday. The fund saw $25 in donations come in late in the day, beating out a donation of $20 to our own ongoing expenses fund and establishing a string of wins for DeCastro's ongoing efforts to raise money for his legal defense in his criminal cases and for lawyers to handle his ongoing civil litigation. DeCastro's next court hearing, his appeal of his recent conviction for interference in a traffic stop and obstruction of an officer, will be held on July 10, 2024. Interest in DeCastro aside, it's time for our complete and necessary hijacking of this column in order to announce changes going forward with this channel and how we will handle our nightly newscasts. As most of our regular listeners know, we recently transitioned from a combination of live and pre-recorded segments for the nightly newscast to an entirely pre-recorded broadcast. While airing live on our platform and featuring members of the cast in the side chat for the premieres, the change has brought about a lot of questions from fans and concerns that were rightfully stated. In order to address those questions, the decision was made to release the newscast as a standalone video file each day to our YouTube channel. Links will be made available to our X and Facebook accounts, and then we will have a live watch party each day for the community to have an interactive experience with the cast to talk about the subjects covered in the newscast while watching said newscast. The nightly newscast is also reclaiming the original title of our newspaper and will be now known as Really Cool News Presents the Auditing Insanity Newscast, or just Auditing Insanity. The name reflects our shift in attitude from a straight newscast to something a little lighter, more consumer-friendly, and a little more insane. Individual videos of the articles featured in the broadcast will be released in the hours that follow the broadcast for anyone who wants to avoid our nonsense and just get straight to the news. Also changing is our show lineup. Sundays at 8:55 a.m. Eastern, we will be having a live weekly review watch party. That's followed at 9 a.m. on Sundays with the Week in Review video launch. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, we will have our live Drunk Girl Theater. Every day at 6:25 Eastern, we will be starting our live Auditing Insanity newscast watch party. This is followed at 6:30 p.m. Eastern every night by our Auditing Insanity newscast video release. 8 p.m. Tuesdays will see us do our live Lip Hoop Scoop Shoot show, featuring whomever we round up for our exclusive talk show about France and French things and other insane things that we'll probably forget about by the time we get on air. Thursdays and Saturdays round out our live schedule with all-star panels at 8 p.m. Eastern. Remember, that's also 7 p.m. where it counts, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. on the West Coast. We do have a GoFundMe of our own. All proceeds go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing new stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. Reed defense team demands charges dropped. In a Monday news dump targeting TMZ and other pro-Karen Reed news outlets, and having nothing to do with attorney Alan Jackson's name out in the news for his alleged inappropriate behavior with client Karen Reed, Reed's defense filed a new motion to prevent two of her criminal charges from being retried. The news made headlines on both TMZ and Fox News as Jackson claimed to have new evidence that the jurors were unanimous in clearing Reed of two of the charges in the case, based on information provided by either three jurors directly or from a friend of the juror in the case who claimed to have access to a group chat with members of the jury. Jackson filed his motion to dismiss Count 1, second-degree murder, and Count 3, leaving the scene of a personal injury or death, based on the information that he claims the jury was unanimous in verdicts of not guilty for the charges. Jackson claimed that while the jury was leaning towards a conviction in Count 2, vehicular manslaughter, because the jurors were reportedly unanimous in finding that his client was innocent of the two other charges, trying her again for those charges would be double jeopardy. The trial resulted in a hung jury last week as jurors claimed that they were fundamentally at odds with each other and coming to a unanimous decision in the case. Jackson is essentially asking the court to put aside two of the charges because three of the jury members supposedly came forward to the defense to say that the entire jury shared their beliefs that Reed was not guilty of counts 1 and 3. Jackson did not provide evidence or affidavits from the jury members in his filing, but asked the court to allow him to investigate the jury's internal deliberations in support of his motion. The prosecution has yet to respond to Jackson's motion. Upon filing with the court, the defense immediately shared that filing with TMZ, Fox News, and other pro-Karen Reed news outlets. This included Larry the DUI guy, Foreman, who immediately blitzed headlines and tweets with "not guilty," despite there being no verdict in the case, as, of course, the case resulted in a hung jury. The request may be delayed if granted, as Judge Beverly Cannoni, who handled the trial, ordered on Monday the names of the jurors in the case impounded for 10 days. Her ruling indicated that she was protecting the jurors from possible danger as people associated with the case have been charged with intimidation. While not naming him, the judge's order was directly squared at Aidan Turtleboy Kearney, who has been charged with multiple counts of conspiracy to intimidate, witness intimidation, and picketing. Kearney had promised that he would taint the jury pool before the trial and made what some would consider threats that he would expose the jury's identities if the jury returned a guilty verdict. In response to the judge's order, DUI guy Foreman released an indignant statement on Twitter claiming that threats from members of the Albert and McCabe families may be the reasoning behind her decision. No mention was made of Kearney. In more Reed-related news, Massachusetts State Trooper Michael Proctor, the lead investigator in the case, was suspended without pay while an internal affairs investigation into his inappropriate comments in text messages during the Reed case continues. Proctor could face charges following the investigation that could be heard by a state police trial board if warranted. Me files DeCastro response. Attorney Michael Me barely met the filing deadline extension on Monday that was granted for Jose Chile DeCastro's response to a motion by the Las Vegas Metro Police Department for a summary judgment in DeCastro's lawsuit against the organization. The response came in later than expected and was released by Pacer a little before midnight on the West Coast, offering the latest reply written by me, but apparently dictated by DeCastro. As Me's style differed from DeCastro's, the narrative remained the same as previous DeCastro written and filed documents. Me, of course, has the unenviable task of having his name attached to a response that argues in part that the LVMPD's claim that DeCastro was convicted of the crimes that he's suing over may be overturned this week on appeal. Of course, one of the main arguments by DeCastro's attorney Christopher Oram, who replaced me as attorney on record in the criminal case, is making the appeal of ineffective counsel by me. While Me leaves out the fact that DeCastro is essentially calling him a horrible attorney, and it was his own errors that cost DeCastro the criminal case, he musters enough to half-heartedly guide DeCastro through a challenge against the motion to essentially end the civil case. Half-heartedly, of course, because Me does little to nothing to defend DeCastro's points for continuing the lawsuit, in which DeCastro is demanding $5 million in compensation. Me regurgitated previous points by DeCastro that have been addressed in the past. The main contention, of course, is that the criminal case in Nevada state level court will be overturned on appeal on Wednesday. Me speaks very highly of the possibility of having the convictions in state court overturned and having a massive impact on the federal lawsuit. But it doesn't work that way. DeCastro wasn't convicted of crimes when he filed the suit. While the LVMPD mentions, yes, he was convicted of the charges in lower court, most of their arguments do not hinge on the verdict in the case, nor should they. They're separate cases with no impact on each other, as one is federal and the other is on the state level. Me points out that while the defense says that the video evidence proves that DeCastro was not struck in the groin, as he did not react to having his genitals patted down, the lack of reaction by DeCastro on the video is not proof that it did not happen, implying that DeCastro could have been injured with a strike to the groin and just didn't react to it, despite it being so damaging to his body that he needed $5 million in compensation for his injuries. DeCastro's supposed ulnar nerve damage is again brought up, claiming that the officers purposely damaged DeCastro's ulnar nerve while restraining him as retaliation for his actions during the arrest and, apparently, for filming the police. At no time does Me offer any actual evidence of ulnar nerve damage, continuing the pattern established by DeCastro. There's no doctor's notes, no x-rays, no diagnosis of an injury, no records of the supposed surgery DeCastro had to have on his hand, just a single receipt from a medical facility that shows he paid for an examination. The rest of the document is a simple regurgitation of DeCastro's pending appeal to the lower court. DeCastro was supposedly arrested for filming the police. The arrest was invalid because the arresting officer issued an unlawful command. DeCastro did comply, even though he didn't comply, and didn't have to comply with the order by the officer to back up, etc., etc. Me is asking the court to deny the motion for summary judgment and grant DeCastro the right to update his response to the motion should he be successful in appealing the lower court conviction on July 10, 2024. And more DeCastro news, as ordered by Judge H.J. Ford III last month, attorney Steve L. Gablin filed a notice of substitution of attorney in DeCastro's lawsuit against Kate Peter, Team Skeptic, Daniel Clement, and Michael Blue Bacon Paratini in California Superior Court. The document agreeing to the substitution was signed Jose DeCastro by Matt DeCastro, who is listed as Jose DeCastro's attorney in fact. The filing was a procedural move, allowing Gablin to represent Jose Chile DeCastro's legal needs in the case while DeCastro is incarcerated in the Clark County Detention Center. Benson scores big in Denver settlement. As Regan Benson announced last week, the Denver City Council voted to approve a total award of $130,000 to her and her husband on Monday to settle multiple civil lawsuits against the city. According to a published account by the Denverite, Benson and husband Brenton were awarded compensation in exchange for dismissing two separate lawsuits against the city, one for retaliation against the Bensons for homeless advocacy, and another for blocking Benson from attending online public citizen advisory board meetings. Correcting our previous coverage, Benson earned only $30,000 for the blockage from the online city advisory board meetings. The lawsuit was seeking Benson's reinstatement to the meetings, which were at one point being held online due to COVID restrictions, and more transparency around the meetings. Benson claimed that she'd been banned from the meetings for allegedly being disruptive and taking an attitude with members of the advisory board. The banning, according to Benson, was in retaliation for her using her First Amendment rights, and indeed saw her awarded $30,000 for her denial of entry to the meetings. The other case saw the Bensons awarded $100,000 for a 2021 incident where the Bensons were pulled over on the side of the road to film an interaction between the police and homeless individuals. Police cited Brenton Benson for blocking a roadway during the incident, which resulted in the suspension of Brenton Benson's driver's license. Brenton Benson continued to drive while his license was suspended and later picked up charges for driving without a license. An internal investigation showed that the arrest was indeed retaliatory, as the Bensons were not parked illegally or blocking the roadway. Officer John Schall, who issued the original citation, was later suspended by the Denver Metro Police Force for 10 days without pay as punishment for his actions in the incident. Benson's most recent live stream, in which she went over the lawsuits and claims in great detail, has been removed from her channel as of press time. While it did not impact the outcome of the lawsuit, it is curious that Benson removed the live stream after being awarded the settlements. In previous statements, Benson has made it clear that she will be conducting further investigations into Officer Schall, as his dismissal from the Denver Metro Police Department is a goal based on his mistreatment of her and her husband. Benson has also promised multiple lawsuits against the city of Denver for supposed retaliatory arrests last year for filming within a police facility. The activist has also apparently threatened the city of Englewood, Colorado, with a civil lawsuit over her recent arrest on charges of harassing a security guard at the Englewood Public Library. This is a developing story. Flashback to July 9th, 2023. DeCastro's wild social media Saturday. The world of Jose Chile DeCastro was on full display on social media Saturday as he turned to Twitter to express his views on women while providing a plea to YouTube to stop demonetizing marijuana-related videos. The latter first, as DeCastro released a short video on YouTube in which observers noted that his pupils were notably smaller than normal and he was rushing his words as he put out a plea to allow monetization of marijuana-related videos. DeCastro made the argument that half of Americans actively use marijuana, and that would mean half of the potential advertisers are marijuana users and would want to advertise on videos related to marijuana. According to the latest statistics from the National Center for Drug Abuse, while 45% of Americans have tried marijuana at least once, active users in adults is at 16.9%. DeCastro was correct in stating that half of the United States had legalized the recreational use of marijuana, and only 10 states have not decriminalized medical use of marijuana. Marijuana use is still limited to adults. Much like alcohol, and YouTube age restricts videos depicting promotion of alcohol and marijuana usage for those reasons. While age-restricted content is available for monetization, the list of advertisers who wish to pursue advertisements on age-restricted content is extremely limited. YouTube will not advertise on videos that instruct or promote illegal activities to children. Turning to DeCastro's Twitter, DeCastro spent Saturday sharing his thoughts on women in America, and strangely, YouTubers Josh Accountability for All Abrams and Dale Lackluster Hiller. Delete laws. #feminism has ruined America and American women. The women here have been brainwashed that they don't need a man, and that we all are toxic masculinity. Us men are so dumb and goofy. Lady, you helped create this culture. It's awful dating American women. Delete laws. Without men, the modern world would crumble around women. Women need men to survive on Earth. Period. Delete laws. Spot on. I'm currently planning my trip to South America. It's a total nightmare dating American women. A total nightmare. It's just not worth it. Delete laws. Bruh. Dale doesn't care unless it gets him views or money. Dale, I'm not done with you. When Josh's deposition tapes come out, you, as a journalist, is over. As a YouTube personality or talking head, sure. A journalist, you're not. You're a fraud, @Dale Hiller. DeCastro is currently suing Abrams as part of his Massachusetts-based federal copyright lawsuit. The lawsuit has not reached the discovery phase yet, and DeCastro has failed to state an actual claim against any of the defendants, including Abrams. Well, jeepers, that was a lot of news. Do you think if Alan Jackson had kept it in his pants, we wouldn't have the embarrassment of, I heard it from a friend of a friend that, the jury says she was not guilty or something? Did he do enough to leak to TMZ to get them off his back about the whole allegedly sleeping with his client thing? And what about poor Michael Mee? He's making mad money from a client who hates his guts. He actually had to write a defense for the guy who was banking on his alleged abysmal work in his criminal case as a reason to have the criminal case thrown out. What a conflict! Plus, Regan Benson got mad go-away money. What about that? I mean, most of us would gladly pay $130,000 to never have to hear from her again. Except maybe our Scottish friend. But what the hell, Denver? Stop relying on crooked cops to deal with her. It's not going to work. Find a way to legally shut her down, or else she's going to keep collecting the taxpayers' money because you bumbled and fumbled your way through another court case. Of course, none of that money is going to the homeless, allegedly, but it will keep her in the big bucks for the next year or so as she makes more money, more money, more money. The rich get richer and the poor get, hey, speaking of me, if I find a way to get outside of the house without dying, do you think I can get a big payoff for repression, depression, and general angst? That's it, Mother Nature. You're being sued next. On that note, we're out of here for another night. Have a happy and safe post-credit scene, and beware, the French are watching. So put some frickin' clothes on. Good night, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.